Welcome to episode number 1 of the Smart Leaders Soul podcast. I am Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am so excited to dive straight into today's topic, which is all about never getting another no on a sales call. Right? I am excited. Let's dive straight in. Let's just give this some context here, okay? People hate sales calls. When I was doing the research for this podcast, so many people said to me, Jess, this is going to be great. What kind of thing are you going to be covering? And I was like, well, I want to do some of these deep dive trainings and I want to get really into the juicy, nitty gritty sales stuff that I love. And a lot of people automatically came back and went, oh my God, please, could you cover sales calls? Can you like give us all of the tips and tricks behind running a successful sales call? And I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been running a sales coaching business for 3 years now. I know that most people intensely dislike selling on the phone. I know that most people intensely dislike pitching. But I was super surprised that the first topic that everybody went for was running a successful sales call, because I was like, but doesn't everybody really love talking to new people? Doesn't everybody get really excited about the idea that they might be talking to a prospect and that prospect may actually change their life by buying from you today? And then I looked at myself from the outside and I thought, oh my God, what a mega loser. And I realized just how overexcited I get about sales. You know, I get about sales like a Labrador does about you playing fetch. And I know that it's a weird analogy, but I'm going to roll with it because Labradors are really happy, bouncy, excitable puppies. And when it comes to sales, I am the same. Basically, I'm big, hairy, and I get really excited when people offer to play fetch with me. But let's dive into the good stuff, because I promise you, this is a topic that I am jazzed about. And it's been one of those things that over the course of my business and over the course of a long career in sales, I've realized that there are certain things that you can do on a sales call and certain things that you can control in a really non-sleazy way that actually make you way more likely to get a yes. Now, to put this into perspective, most of my clients that are using this method are taking their sales conversions from 1 in 5 calls. So 1 in 5 calls, people saying yes to them, to 4 out of 5 calls, people saying yes to them. So that is bumping their conversions up considerably. And there are only a few simple tweaks that we're changing. I'm not going to talk about setting out a whole script and exactly what you should say, but I am going to cover off 3 super important things that you've absolutely got to nail in order to make your calls easy, non-sleazy, and get that yes every time. So the first thing I want to touch upon is pre-qualifying the lead, right? If you have heard any of my content before, if you have hung out with me in my Facebook group, or you have read any of my blogs, you know that I am a massive advocate of the selling not beginning when you're pitching or at the sales page, right? The sale begins a long way in advance of that, okay? Because effectively, in order to make a sale, you need to build a relationship. And so when people come to me and they tell me that their sales call conversions are really low, the first thing we look at is, are you actually pre-qualifying the leads that are coming into your sales call process? Because ultimately, if you aren't checking early that these are the right people, it's going to knock your conversion rates right down, because you're not getting the right people in your funnel, which means that, of course, when you're getting them on the phone, they're not saying yes. So element number 1 that I want to talk about today is how you can pre-qualify the leads that get on your calls. Now, there are 2 ways of doing this. 1, when you're actually advertising these calls, get really specific. And I don't mean the whole, I've got 5 spaces that just opened up in my calendar and I'd love to offer them to people who want to experience some kind of transformation. Because if you can't tell from the monotone in my voice, it's really boring, it's really sleazy, and it's been done so many times before that actually the best way to book those discovery calls in with people that you want to talk to, ideal clients, is to actually be specific. Tell people who you want to talk to. Okay, so that might look like putting out a post that says, hey, I'm opening my calendar to talk to people who are, and then talk about the characteristics they embody. So are they ambitious? Are they driven? Are they integrity based? Are they getting results for their clients but not seeing it reflected in their PayPal accounts? Talk about the specifics, right? Then talk about the transformation they want to achieve. Okay, this one drives me up the wall when I see people who are like, oh, I've got these free assessments, or I've got these free coaching calls. And I'm like, no, it's not a free coaching call. It is a call where you are going to assess if they are the right client or the right prospective buyer for you. And that doesn't come by opening up to all and sundry. You have to get specific about what kind of transformation these people actually really want, right? So if you are talking to the woman who wants to lose 10 pounds in 10 days, hey, don't judge. I just went on an all-inclusive holiday and I'm I'm feeling my belt pinch a little bit. Or you're talking to the person who really wants to increase their profit margin by $1,000 a day. You need to be saying that when you're asking for people to come on these calls, because the more specific you can get, the more detail and information you can give them about the transformation that you're going to provide, the more you're pre-qualifying them with ease. Because automatically, the woman who doesn't want to lose 10 pounds in 10 days, or the person who doesn't want to add $1,000 a day to their profit margin, they're not going to sign up, right? They're going to self-identify and think, that's not for me. I'm not going to sign up this time. And that's not a bad thing, okay? In future episodes, we'll be talking about why specificity is key and why actually people self-identifying that something isn't for them is a good thing. Okay, so if you've pre-qualified the call in your email or your post and you've been really specific about the kind of characteristics you want people to have and the transformation they want to achieve, you then want to be sending them to a pre-qualifying or pre-qualification questionnaire of some kind. Now, I have one of these, and honestly, it is one of the best things I've ever put into my business for many, many reasons, but mainly because when people fill it out, I know that they are super committed to coming to the call, being open, transparent, and committed to actually making some changes on the call. And B, that again, they've gone through another pre-qualifying determination process that is going to help me identify early, is this somebody that's an ideal client for me? Is this somebody that potentially I can help? Is this somebody that I may need to refer to somebody else, one of my colleagues, one of my respected peers? Is this somebody that maybe could be helped by one of my clients? These are the sorts of things you want to be considering on these questionnaires, and pre-qualifying will really help you do that. So in this questionnaire, in this pre-qualification questionnaire, what you want to do is have some normal, and I'm going to say mundane, I was going to say boring, but let's go with mundane questions like, what is your name? What's your Skype ID? Or at least, giving them a Zoom link or something that they need to show up to. And then you get to have some questions around, what's your business? What are your goals? What obstacles have you faced? What is it that you'd like to achieve and how quickly would you like to achieve it? So you get the kind of discovery questions. You get to find out a little bit more about this person before you jump on the phone with them. And then you get my favorite questions. These are the ones I really, really love, which are called the red flag questions. Okay, so these are the questions that are designed not to catch people out, because we don't ever want to catch people out, but ultimately to help us identify, does this person share the same characteristics as me? Is this person an ideal client? Is this person ready to potentially invest? Is this person serious and committed about the transformation that they're telling me that they want to achieve? These questions can come in all different shapes and sizes, but I want to share a couple of mine with you so that you can integrate them into your own sales process, and also so you can spiral some ideas from those, so you can brainstorm some ideas and think about what kind of questions in your business or in your questionnaire would be really useful at pre-qualifying people and perhaps weeding them out or giving you some red flags that could be identified early that could be then dealt with in that sales call. So one of my favorite things to ask people on my questionnaire is, what have you already tried when it comes to your sales process, and why did it or didn't it work out? Okay, right? I feel like I should be mic dropping right now. I kind of wish there was a video for this podcast, because I'm watching myself record this and thinking, wow, this is something that visually I think would probably be hilarious for people to watch. Maybe we'll have to bring that in one day. But that question is huge when it comes to my sales process, when it comes to pre-qualifying people in that questionnaire. Now, one of the reasons is that it helps me identify how self-aware are people. You know, how self-aware are they about the things that they've tried, whether they really went all out on the things that they tried, or whether they kind of held back a little bit, just did the bits that they wanted to. And it also helps me understand what kind of person they are. So for example, if somebody says, I hired 10 coaches and I never got any results because all of my coaches were awful and they never helped me make any decisions, there's going to be alarm bells ringing, right? We've all had one bad coach. It happens. We need to get over it and move on. Ultimately, though, if you've hired 10 people and they have not been able to help you, and you think that writing and blaming them on a random questionnaire is going to make people kind of feel sympathy, you're wrong. It highlights you as somebody that is not willing to take personal responsibility for your actions. And so regardless of whether all 10 coaches were actually terrible, you kind of see from that somebody's maybe a blamer personality. And that isn't an ideal client for anyone, right? We all want to work with people ultimately that are committed, that are responsible, that are action takers, and that want to play full out without wanting to use another cliche. So that's the first red flag question I have. The second red flag question I have, and this one's multiple choice, okay? The first one, I leave open-ended. They can write whatever they like, although I'm never, ever going to get the response now, am I, that I've had 10 coaches and they've all been terrible. I realize now, putting that out on a podcast was like, shoot, I've really stabbed myself in the foot there on that filtering question. But the second question I have is multiple choice question, and it's about being ready to invest financially in your business at this time. So I obviously work with entrepreneurs, and I am somebody who's very open and honest and transparent right from the get-go. So I believe in being open and transparent right from the get-go in my sales process. And for me, that means saying to somebody, hey, right now, are you able to invest in your business securely? And the answers, they range from yes, I could be, or I have access to funds, no, and no, I don't ever want to spend any money in my business. And obviously you can tell which are the red flag answers there, okay? Now, the important thing is that we don't judge people by these red flag answers. Like, we don't judge them and go, oh, well, because they've had 20 squillion coaches, they must be a terrible person or a terrible business owner, or because they've said no, they don't have access to funds right now, they're never going to invest in anything and they're going to waste my time. It's not our job to judge from that pre-qualification questionnaire. All that is there to do is to highlight any potential obstacles that will occur on your sales call. That's it. No judgment needed, no panic or concern or kind of like feeling, oh my goodness, all the people that are selecting my questionnaire are, never going to be ready to invest in their business. Nothing like that. Because what happens next is during the sales call, we're actually going to use that and we're going to come straight out and ask them about those problematic answers. Okay. So stick with me here. So this is the first element, right? We need to pre-qualify our leads. We need to put them through a process. We need to make them work to get to the call, because ultimately every man and his dog has the ability for you to book a free discovery call, whether it's a free discovery call, breakthrough call, assessment, working hour, coaching call, whatever you want to call it. Every man and his dog has one. So when you make people work for that call, actually they become more committed. They actually show up for the call. They actually are committed to attending and being open and coachable throughout that process, okay? So we must pre-qualify the leads correctly. Now, the second thing that we need to do is we need to actually structure that call for success. And we've all been there, okay? We have all been on those calls where we have a huge personality in the prospective buyer, and they come onto the call and they dominate the entire thing. And you kind of end up being a bit like, hey, I'm Jess. This call was great, and I don't really know what to say or how to pitch you because now it's awkward that you've told me about your grandma's birthday and how great her cake was, but we haven't discussed your business at all. We've all had them. We've all been there, and it's because we lack a structure. Now, humans love structure. I have a couple of clients. One of my clients is actually the boundary queen. And as she would tell you, boundaries are good. They make people feel safe. They make people react in good ways, in positive ways to situations because it lets everybody know where they stand. So when you are going onto these sales calls, you've actually got to have a structure in place. And what that means is that you go into the call knowing exactly what you want to do during that call and what they're going to get out of that call as well, okay? So for example, you need to start with setting an agenda. Okay, this is a really simple thing that people forget to do that actually really helps you if that client goes off track or if there are things that you need to cover during the course of the call. So you set the agenda. You're like, hey, Jess, it's so good to talk to you today. I'm really looking forward to finding out more about you, about your business. Just want to make sure that we maximize our time together today. So first, we're going to start talking about this. Then we're going to start talking about that. And if it feels right at the end, and only if it feels right, I'm going to share how we can work together in future. Is that cool? Now, what that does, setting that agenda, lets that person know what kind of questions you're going to be asking, what kind of participation they're going to be expected to hold up to. And also that it's going to get rid of that elephant in the room, right? We're telling them if it feels right, and only if it feels right, I'm going to be pitching to you if there's something that I feel like I can help you with. Okay, so that's point one. The agenda is really, really important. And that way, if they do happen to start ranting on about Grandma Doris's cake halfway through, you can just bring them back and be like, hey, this isn't in the agenda. So I just want to pull you back to where we need to be in this call. Okay? Now, the second bit you need to focus on is the discovery element of the call. Now, this is the part where you get to be really nosy, where you get to find out a lot about their business. And the reason that you do this isn't just because, you're really, really obsessed with not talking on these calls, but it's because ultimately knowledge is power. The more information you have about somebody, about the transformation that they're looking for, about the way that they want to move their business or their health or their life, whatever area it is that you're covering forward, the easier it is to avoid objections. Okay, so we're going to talk about handling objections, but if you use this structure, you will not get that many of them. Okay, so we want to really be setting ourselves up for success and making sure that you discover as much as possible at the beginning of that call is really going to help you avoid those objections later on. So what kind of questions can you ask during this phase? Well, you ask the basics, right? What kind of business do you have? What do you want it to look like in 3 months' time? What kind of transformation are you looking for? What are your timelines for achieving that goal? In an ideal world, if I could give you a magic wish from a genie, what would you like your life, your health, your relationship, your business to look like after 12 months? If we came back to this conversation in 12 months' time and I asked you what had changed, what would you want to see, right? These are all great questions that you can use in that discovery phase to understand exactly where your ideal client is right now, or where your prospect is right now, and what they're looking to achieve. And if you listen, if you actually hear what they're saying, later on when you go back and you sell to them, you can use those points from that discovery. You can use those transformation points. You can use those desires to help sell them into the offering, the program, the product, the service that you have that genuinely can help them achieve that. So that's the first section to the discovery call. The second section is the pre-objection handling phase. Okay, now this is where you understand what has been stopping them getting to their goal. So this is the phase where you can ask questions like, okay, so I hear that your goal is to make X amount of money per month. What do you feel has been stopping you so far? And this is the point at which that person will raise all of their fears. They'll talk about perhaps things that you feel or are irrelevant when it comes to that problem being solved. And they'll also raise any problems that they have that are valid. A lot of people come to me and they explain that they're really, really struggling to close sales calls. But when we ask during this phase how many sales calls they actually have a month, they say 2 or 3, because actually their problem is lead generation or tribe building, community building, right? So this is your opportunity to find out what the real problems are. And again, dig into what have they already tried? Why did it work? Why didn't it work? If they could turn around and do anything differently, what would they do? Where do they perceive their problems to be in the future? You can also ask questions around their ability to be coached. So ask, are you coachable? Are you somebody who's open to learning? Are you somebody who takes feedback well, or constructive feedback well? Because ultimately, if you're going to be coaching somebody through a problem, you need them to be able to be open and receive feedback rather than getting on the defensive every time, right? So this is your opportunity to find out any potential obstacles that have stopped them in the past and whether or not they're the right fit. Now, the other thing that you can do in this stage is you can handle objectives or objections proactively here. So for example, before you move on to any kind of sales or summary stage, you can say, okay, based on where we are now, would you see anything stopping you moving forward if there was a proven plan in place to help you get from point A to point B right now? Now that gives the person the opportunity to ask any questions that they have, to talk about anything that they feel they might be concerned about at that instance. It may be that they're already starting to worry about the price tag, and so you can legitimately address any concerns they do have right at this point. That being said, if you get past this point and you think, okay, that person is not an ideal client because they don't exhibit the characteristics that I'm looking for, or they don't have a problem that I can solve, the next phase in the call is going to be different for you. You're going to do a summary phase and you're going to say, okay, to my knowledge, this is what I understand your problem to be. This is the transformation I understand that you want to get. I'm not this person who's going to be able to help you get there. And instead, I'd recommend, and then either you can recommend a colleague or somebody that you know who you refer people to, or you refer them to a free resource and tell them to check back in with you in 3 months or so when you feel like they might have got that stuff down. And then you can obviously pick back up. Now, people love that, because when you sell with integrity, when you actually do this with integrity and you tell people, now is not the right time for me to help you, but in 3 months' time, once you've done these things, we could definitely work together. They will go out and refer you everywhere, because people love integrity. People love it when people are honest, right? So don't be afraid to turn people away. It will come back. They will come back to you, and they will be referring a ton of other people to you, because let's face it, they're not the only one with the problem. They will have a network of people who also have that problem, and they'll be referring them all to you. The second part of that is, if you have gone through this process and the person is the right fit, so they exhibit the characteristics that your ideal clients do, they have a problem that you can solve, and you know that they are an ideal client just waiting for you to take them to the next level, now is your time to summarize back to them. Okay, I understand that your problem is this, and the transformation that you want is this. I know that I have something that can help you. Would you like me to outline that for you? Okay, again, you're getting their permission to talk about what that might look like. Then you outline it, okay? And again, one of my clients says this. She says, facts tell, stories sell, okay? Now, I twist that a little bit, because I say facts tell, transformation sells, okay? So when you're outlining your product, your program, your service, please don't do the usual, I have a 12-week coaching program, you get one 45-minute call every single week, and PDFs and email access and this and that. Because ultimately, nobody wants that. Nobody cares how many PDFs they're going to get. They've got PDFs coming out of their ears, but they don't want more. What they do want is transformation. So you want to be focusing on making your pitch about the transformation that they're going to achieve. Okay, so you can say, I know that over a 12-week period, we would be working on X, Y, Z points to make sure that your ultimate goal of hitting those 10K months every single month would become your new reality. Now, in order to do that, we'd be meeting every week and we'd be setting clear action plans to help you generate immediate revenue, to help you scale your community, and to help you automate your business so that you're not working 24/7 in order to hit those huge money goals, right? How much better does that sound than we're going to meet once a week and we're going to talk for 45 minutes and then I'm going to give you this PDF and then you can have email access so if you have questions, you can send them over to me. Okay, it's a lot better. You're focusing on the benefits. You're focusing on the transformation they actually want. And then you say the price. Okay, so you go, and it's $5,000, let's say. Now, once you've said the price, don't go off on a tangent, okay? Because a lot of people have been taught that, we get on the phone, we tell them the price, then we discount the price, then we, try and talk as much as possible in order to make them buy. So it kind of ends up sounding a little bit like, so yeah, that's going to be $5,000 and actually there's $1,000 off today, but if you buy within the next 10 minutes, then I'll give you an extra $250 discount. And by the way, I'll also sell you my firstborn child for that too. Okay, it kind of sounds a little bit ridiculous. And it is a little bit ridiculous because when it comes to being a business owner, yes, it can be nerve-wracking saying the price. Absolutely it can, especially if you are in a position where you're like, this is really a big deal in my business. This is something that's going to be the difference between me paying the mortgage and me living off of pot noodles for the rest of the month. Okay, it is serious. But the best thing that you can do is try and relax in this situation. Okay, try and be detached from the outcome. So what that means is just saying, okay, the price for that would be $5,000 or 2 installments paid across 2 months. And then be silent. Give their brain a chance to digest and process. Okay, because ultimately our brains do not work at the speed of light. And if you throw a ton of options at somebody, their brain gets really confused, and confused minds do not buy. So tell them the price and then be silent, be calm, okay? If they come back to you and they say, okay, I can't afford that, great. You have 2 options here. Option 1, you can go, okay, that's cool. I've been really honest with you throughout this process, so I just want to check in here. Is this really a question about the price, or is there something that I haven't covered off that would help you make this decision? Okay, so you're not judging them. You're not, asking them to sell their sofa or their car or anything to pay for your services. You're just asking them to be honest with you. Is this really about the money, or is there something that I haven't covered off that would help you make this decision? That's it. Or you can talk to them about the possibility of a different service. Okay, let's say I had something else that would help you achieve these parts of your transformation that you're looking for, but you wouldn't necessarily get as much one-on-one time. Would you like me to outline that for you? Because it's more within your budget. Okay, give them options. Remember, a no is not a no right now. And also the money objection is a valid objection only 2% of the time. And that really is a statistic. You can check out the Harvard Business Review. They did some things on this a few years ago. It's not always the objection, okay? But it's the easiest one to shut a salesperson down on. So what you need to be thinking is, how can you make this an open space and an empowered space for that person to make the decision? Because ultimately, during the sales call, you want them to walk away, ideally buying from you. That would be great. But more importantly, you want them to have made a decision. Are they a hell yes, I want to work with you and I'm signing up right now and here's my credit card details? Or are they a, do you know what, actually, this offer isn't for me. You've given me some food for thought and I appreciate it. And I'm going to go off and do whatever it is that I need to do before I come back to you at a later point. Either is fine. Don't be afraid to get a no. No's are good. The more no's you get, the more yeses you're on your way to receiving. But ultimately, this call is a decision-making call. It's not, leaving them for another 3 weeks, letting them follow up by email whenever they want. It's for you to say, okay, that's absolutely fine, but what the aim of this call is for is to help you make the right decision for you. So ultimately, if that's a yes or if that's a no, it's okay. But once we leave the call, I want you to be solid in the decision that you've made today. Okay? Now, there are going to be some instances where people have to go away and talk to their partners about investing. You know, they're going to go away and want to think about it. And that's absolutely fine too. But just remember, before you get off that call, to arrange a follow-up. You know, don't be afraid to say, I'm going to check in with you at this time on this date, so that we can make sure that there are no other questions you have and that you're ready to make the best decision for you. Okay? Once you've done that, most people will be absolutely happy that you'll follow up with them. They'll feel really good about it, and they'll have a decision when they say they will. So let's recap that. The elements that you need to have in place to run a successful sales call are: you need to pre-qualify the leads. You need to have the best people coming in, and you need to make them work for that call. Then you need to have the best structure for your sales call. So you need to set an agenda, you need to have a discovery phase, a pre-objection handling phase, and a summary or sales phase. And you need to be able to handle objections, okay? Don't try and bash them down. Be empathetic. Remember how it feels to make a large investment, and don't be afraid to hold that space for them to make a decision on the call. Doesn't matter if it's a yes, doesn't matter if it's a no, they just need to make the decision. Okay, awesome. I am so excited to see how everyone gets on with this. And if you do want any extra help, just scroll down into those show notes where there is a really, really cool sales script and objection handling guide training that you can pick up and you can use to create your own sales script and to put something in place that really helps you get that yes every single time. Now, if you've enjoyed episode number 1 of the Smart Leader Sell podcast, which I really hope you have, hit that subscribe button on iTunes, on Stitcher, wherever you're listening from, to make sure that you get the updates about every new episode that comes out. Because the next episode, episode 2, I'm going to be talking all about sales in Facebook groups and how you can get clients from other people's groups without feeling like pitchy McSleazy. Oh yeah, that's coming next episode. I will see you there.